Do you know this game? This is one of the best finds from Tokyo Game Market 2023 and one of the best two-player games I've ever played. Now, if you're new here, my name's Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. I've been talking about Japanese games for quite a while now, and this year I picked up quite a few. You can check out this content here. Now, I picked this up because I've been following designer Yusuke Nakamura for a few years now, but it wasn't until last year when Trick and Trade came out that he really got my attention, because this is a phenomenal game. But this is even better. Now, if you haven't heard of Yusuke Nakamura, well, he's only been designing games for 10 years. However, he's still a doujin designer. So if you want to find his games, well, I would recommend checking out this video here and learn how to get games from Japan. Now, in 4 Clans Conflict, 2 players will be fighting over these 4 castles. The first player is going to get 13 cards, second player 12. And then the second player will take one of these cubes and move it to any castle of their choice. The first player is then going to look at their hand of cards and choose a card to burn. Then you're ready to begin. So the lead player is going to begin by playing a card anywhere on these 4 castles. And the second player must follow suit, meaning that they must play a red card from their hand. However, they don't have to place it on this particular castle. They can place it anywhere, such as this castle here. Now, because they lost 7-2, this card will then flip over, and then they'll take a cube from this castle. Now, eventually, one of the castles, most likely this one, will run out of cubes, and then the card will flip over. Now, for the rest of the hand, that means that this color is trump, and you can only have one trump for the entire hand. So even if another castle loses all its cubes, it still won't flip over. Red will be trump. This is a typical must-follow trick-taking game where you must follow the suit. Now, while trump cards do beat all leading suits, if you do play the 1, you will beat the 7 of only the matching suit, and therefore this card would lose, and then this cube will go to this player. The game ends once all 12 cards have been played, and each castle has 3 cards maximum on either side. You then compare the strengths of either side, 8 versus 6. Whoever has the most wins control of the castle and the points. If there happen to be any cubes left over, then each cube is 1 point. Any cubes that you've gained over the course of the game are 1 point each as well. And if for some reason the strength of both sides are the same, as in here, then no one gains control of the castle or the cubes on the card. Play 2 hands, and whoever collectively has the most points wins 4 Clans Conflict.
Yeah, so what? What's the big deal?
What's the big deal is that this game has so many little layers into it, and it's such a clean design that it is just a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, so it's not sexy looking.
Okay, look, I admit that it's not the sexiest looking game, especially by 2023 standards, when you have big, epic Kickstarter games. No, I'm not innocent here. I have tons of those great Kickstarter games. But in a world where you could spend over $500 US for 3 ugly looking Steffenfeld games, I'm sorry, not sorry, but they're ugly looking.
Queen Games, you do better.
It's just nice. Like 4 Clans Conflict just kind of goes back to the roots of the early aughts and just has a nice, clean design, and you feel that nice, classic look, just like this Uncanny X-Men.
Yeah, so what?
What I love most about the aughts style of design, that's from 2000 to 2010, is that you didn't need all that extra chrome to come up with something that was really smooth and just worked. Now, 4 Clans Conflict comes along and says you don't need all that extra chrome for a fantastic gameplay experience. A couple of years ago, Shut Up Sit Down talked about how Hansa Teutonica might just be the greatest Euro game of all time. And it's kind of hard to disagree with him there. And I'm kind of feeling that 4 Clans Conflict is the greatest 2-player trick-taking game of all time. So, here are 4 reasons why I think 4 Clans Conflict deserves to be on your shelf. Number 1, tight scoring. If both of you are pretty good at this game, there will be a fluctuation of maybe 3 points. I don't see that often, a big disparity in point range. 2, you might think that that means that the game is kind of wishy-washy and go back and forth. Absolutely not. You can make really bad decisions if you are not really familiar with trick-taking games and some of the hand management strategies that go into that. You can lose by up to like 10 points, and I've seen it, and it's kind of brutal. Number 3, the simple wrinkle of having 1s being able to beat 7s. You don't think that's a big deal, but all your 7s, instead of looking really strong, feel absolutely vulnerable. And you have to take a risk sometimes of playing that 7 when you think you can. And there are 4 cards that are burnt that you can't see. You can see your hand and you can kind of guess what the odds are that your opponent has that one. And sooner or later, you got to roll the hard 6. And it is absolutely brutal when you play the 7 and your opponent plays a 1 and it just ruins your whole plan. Number 4, the best strategy of this game is you have to win and you have to lose and you have to know when to give and when to take control. I've seen players conquer 1 castle and totally win because they lost all the other castles and gained all the cubes and scored all those little points. The death by 1,000 knives. And as you're playing the game and you see your opponent take cube after cube after cube after cube, it just elevates that tension 1 cube at a time. But it's amazing that it is just so clean. There's not a lot of fluff involved. The rule set is actually quite simple. And I'm talking about the game longer than it took me to teach the game. Just like X-Men of the 80s, I don't see 4 Kinds of Conflict ever losing relevance, style, or the cool factor of the box. Because it's a 2-player game, and you can keep this in your box, in your pocket, and it's only a deck of cards with cubes. If you wanted to, you could actually just take a regular deck of cards and play this game at home and see how amazing it really, really is. Are you a publisher out there and you haven't picked this up? Well, I think you should. 4 Kinds of Conflict is definitely a game worthy of being on my shelf, and I'm gonna place it right here in the top center square. So, what game do you want to play next?